here we go. And here we
Nole Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown with your host, as always, George. I've got my beautiful co-host with me, the beautiful Jen Santee, aka at Jen Nole 2013, at Jen Nole or at Jen Santee 1890, excuse me, on X. You can find her. Today's special guest, we have another former Florida State Seminole, national championship, made it to the NFL, spent some time with the Cleveland Browns, our good friend, Nile Lawrence-Stample. How's it going today, man? Thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, man, of course. I appreciate you having me on, man. Things have been great, bro. I really can't complain.
Absolutely. Today is kind of the beginning of the transfer portal. Everybody was expecting this major explosion, but kind of what we warned to as far as, Florida State side of it and the guys pretty much that would end up leaving. There isn't a bunch of bad blood. It's not some crazy mayhem like's made out in the mainstream media, like Bama had when their coach left and things like that. It's kind of just business as usual. For Mike Norvell and his coaching staff. We're at like 90 guys. We've got scholarship limitations. So there's decisions that have to be made. There's guys that maybe will get pushed out, guys that will pursue opportunities otherwhere. But there's this kind of narrative out there that this is all brand new and this has never been around. Kind of, back in 2011 when Nile Lawrence-Stample shows up at FSU, he's good. He's in there. He's got his 4 or 5 years. He doesn't have to earn that scholarship year after year. Guys weren't getting processed out. Well, the numbers tell you that isn't possible just by they bring in 25, 30 guys every year. But if you could just speak on that, what it was like in your time in Tallahassee and, roster still got, spun over at that point in time too.
Yeah, man. It was, so you definitely you don't get guaranteed that time, but when they're talking to you, they're telling you, hey, listen, come, we're going to give you a 4-year scholarship. And that's what they tell you. But technically, you don't really even know that until you get to the university and realize that it's really more or less just a 1-year thing. But they always say a full ride, like a full opportunity, a full way for you to be able to pay for your college and all that other stuff. I personally never saw guys get their scholarship revoked from like, hey, you're not playing well enough, we're going to take your scholarship. But it happens in a lot of different other ways. You have obviously players that aren't able to do it academically, right? So they get on probation and then they get kicked out, and then it's like that's a situation in itself. And then you have obviously the drug issue where if you don't pass drug test or whatever the case may be, but there's a bunch of different opportunities for you to lose your scholarship. And that's why they make it that 1-year situation, because they're able to then take it away without having any issues, because they're like, hey, you kind of did it to yourself. So we're not obligated to do anything other than this particular year that we're in right now. So it's definitely a myth that it's a 4-year deal. It's more or less a 1-year deal. But yeah, man, it's kind of one of those things.
Did that happen? Did you see that, throughout your years playing football? Like, okay, well, this guy's on the outs. He's not doing what he's supposed to. Man, he just got 3 random drug tests in a row.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, man. And so what they'll do, especially if you are potentially habitual and you fail it that first time, you fail it that second time, they'll put you on probation and you have to obviously go to a whole thing. And they try to help you in some capacity if you're a good player, if you're a good stout player, or if you're trying. But if they're a player that they've been potentially wanting to get rid of you or whatever the case may be, then they probably find that avenue to do so. But yeah, man, it happened, unfortunately, more often than not. Just players that just didn't really pick the right path or weren't focused enough. And there's 1,000 ways to lose that scholarship more than just not being a good player. And those players that typically aren't great players and they just aren't getting it together typically have a bunch of other issues. The players that are good players are going to at least try. They're able to excel on like scout team. They can excel on special teams. They'll excel at maybe doing certain packages or something like that. But it's really often, it's really not very often for players to like not do well and then say, okay, well, I'm just gonna potentially not play or like the scholarship get taken away. There's something going on there.
Absolutely. There's this, and it's what really, perturbs me about all this stuff is the narrative that everybody goes straight to online and everywhere else, that it's all about money. Money, money, money. And it's like, I'm sitting here and I've looked at every single name in Mike Norvell's entire time here, and it's very rare than that. It's like, if you're the third string running back, well, yeah, you're not happy with your money, because what you're really saying is you want playing time. You want to be a starter. We've yet to have a guy that's a projected starter and kind of take off. I think the reason we did a show, when was it? Friday. We had Chris Frazier and James Coleman on here. If you want to go back and check that out, we went through all the position groups, all the names we possibly thought would enter. So we're not going to go too deep into that one now. We're going to really get his perspective as a former player. He was able to visit spring practice a time or two, so we're really going to get into that spring game preview in a little bit. But we did want to touch on the portal a little bit before we moved on. What do you think? If there was a portal when you were in college, would you ever had considered it? Is it something for you? Do you think there's guys that would have left back in your time at Florida State, maybe in 2015 or 2014, kind of after the national championship?
So if there's a portal in existence, players are getting in it. That is happening. There's no doubt in my mind. In 2014, 11, 12, 13, every single year that I was there, players would have been in and out of the portal, because it becomes a mindset. It becomes the actual fundamentals of the game. So now you're at a disadvantage if you do not act within the portal, and you're not taking it seriously enough, because and it's a culture, right? So you have this new thing that they've implemented in college sports or college football. And if you're not taking the opportunity to go and play somewhere else, you're really squandering it. So it sucks, because it doesn't create that culture. It doesn't create that grind of trying to play behind someone and try to be able to cultivate your skills from that particular player that's in front of you. You're trying to find the best slot necessary for you to be able to get the most playing time. So in my era, there's 1,000 people that are transferring, because you have to think the amount of depth that we had at that time was unbelievable. And that's why we excelled so much. And if you have that much depth, you have players that are sitting on the bench that really would be starting, right? But they're not leaving because, one, you're on a phenomenal team, right? You get all that notoriety, you get all that clout, you get all that comfortability with being somewhere really, really good. And sometimes you don't really want to leave that. But then also you have situations where players are working, and I don't want to leave to then give up that year of eligibility. I don't want to leave to then have to worry about where I'm going to go and then not be able to play or waste my time or whatever the case may be. So it is really funny when I hear that, because the portal it's like bread and butter. It's like this thing that has come into college sports, and it is now immediately the standard. But there's been issues with players wanting to be able to transfer for a long time, and players being able to want to leave and go wherever they need to go because of this coaching switch, or because of this player doesn't, whatever the case may be. But now it is the name of the literal game. It is name of the game now for the portal. And some of these guys that are sitting and, hey, I could go play somewhere else, and they know that, and they threaten that, and it's really funny to see and watch. But it's what we got now, man.
Yeah, it's a whole different era, and I think you kind of nailed it. Culture, it's a buzzword, but look, culture is when guys are coming in and getting developed and playing football at a high level. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is, and I think it speaks to Florida State's culture, that as soon as the portal opens, you don't have a bunch of guys just running and hitting it immediately. I think most of the guys are in good standing with the team, and we're going to be able to see some competition. They think in the heart of hearts, half of them, we're going to be able to earn our spot in this game come Saturday. And before we move on and get to talking about the spring game and then some of the competitions, and possibly, the names will come up through, here or there. Jen, do you have anything for them before we move on to the spring game preview?
No, I think you guys have covered it very well. I'm good.
Alrighty then. Spring game preview. You had the privilege to get to practice a couple times, or one time, I'm not sure. Really, hyped up. I can't tell you how excited I am for this year. Nationally, there's kind of a idea that the scene might take a step back this year, but internally, if you talk to me and Jen and we look at the blue chip ratio, the talent that's been brought in, and then being able to really stack things up, I'm looking for an ACC championship. We've got our reservations made in North Carolina for that game, and getting ready for a playoff component. I guess, what was your first kind of thoughts when you got to see those guys out there practicing?
It brought back so many memories from back when I played, because we were the first team to play in that indoor facility, and it got built. We kind of paved the road for that. And coming in 2011 and 2012, once we were able to hold that ACC spot and we won that game, they immediately started building it. So that next year after that was really the first year that we were able to really enjoy it, which was awesome. So walking in there and seeing everyone practice, it felt different just because the tempo was the same. Jimbo really held a tight ship, and he loved high tempo. He wants energy. He wants to see it. But he was different on how he conducted his practices. He was more of a dictator and more of a facilitator, more than the lifeblood of the practice. And whereas we see where Norvell, which I've said a few times, Norvell is literally the tempo king. He is there and he is rolling it, and he wants everyone to be high tempo, high energy. And I think it's almost like he sets himself up throughout the day for him to get his most cardio during practice. So he's like probably stretching, he's getting warmed up, he's getting situated to where when he goes out to practice, he might as well have pads on. Right, he might as well be going into the secondary and then playing on the defensive line and then doing all those things. He's like in practice, and it's amazing to watch. But I think it shows a true testament of like where Norvell's mindset is. Norvell's mindset is really about being with the players, really about like buying into what's happening around his team at all times and being like inside of his team. And it's really cool to see, because it's just different. It's different than what I'm used to. It's different from what I feel like a lot of coaches, at least back in that old era, I'm not sure kind of what we're seeing on a consistent basis from these coaches in this new era, but I have to assume that these players are becoming a lot more harder to manage, right? Just because you're having the portal, you're having NIL, you're having some of these other things that are making players a little bit more free-willing, right? Free-willed, where back in the day, you're more or less, you don't have an opportunity to leave here, right? Unless you want to give up a year of eligibility. You have 3 players in front of you. That's unbelievable, right? And you have to beat that spot.
You got the leverage.
Right. On top of that, you have to do that while making absolutely no money. Like you have maybe $30 in your account by the end of the month. Those are all things that create a mindset, and it creates like almost like this thought process of I have to do this here and now, no ifs or ands or buts about it. And I think when you move out of that mindset, you're like options and this, and you're free spirited and free willing and all this other stuff. Who's gonna lead this team? Like who do I need to listen to? I don't need to listen to a dictator. I don't need to listen to someone that's going to be like telling me what to do all the time and like not showing it and not being a caring and someone that is relating to me. And I think Norvell's hit this on the head. He has hit it on the head. He is in it. He's showing these kids that I am here. I am running with you. I am coaching with you. I am waking with you. I'm doing all the things with you in order for you to see that. And kids are buying in left and right, which is awesome. And that's how you create good winning culture.
I love it, man. I mean, that's a common thing from these kids. They like Mike Norvell. It doesn't matter when you catch him, 2 a.m, 2 p.m, Saturday, Sunday. He is that same exact guy, that same energy. And you hit the nail on the head. You know, us 3, we're all pretty close, around the same age. We grew up, if you ask your mom or your dad, you know, why do I have to do that? Because I said so.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was because they said so. That's how it went. And I'm sure it was the same thing with Bobby Bowden and Mickey Andrews and all those guys. But Gen X, you get into Gen Z, these younger kids coming through, they kind of want to know the why of things. And Mike Norvell and his coaching staff, it's one of the most amazing things they do is really kind of develop these guys, give them a why, give them a reason, kind of why they're doing things and something to kind of build towards. Their map drills, their tour duty and stuff, it really is old school and the kind of mental strength it builds and stuff. But you see, like you said, Mike Norvell out there running 100-yard dash with his players. You see him going from unit to unit as the head coach. I'm a bit jealous. I haven't got to check that out in person yet. But I guess we can talk a little bit of defense. You are a defensive lineman, a defensive guy, of course, at heart. What really stood out? Were there any big numbers that popped out to you that Odell Haggins and John Papuchis was working out there with?
Yeah, man. I think as an entirety, obviously, it really sucks that obviously Farmer wasn't out there and he's trying to get back from this. But and that's the name of the game, right? I had a lot of injuries that I had to deal with, and that's a part of what football is about, and sometimes you're even better for it after that. So I'm really hoping the best, and hopefully that comes out to be a great opportunity, a great situation for him at the end of the day. But overall, I think being able to watch the defensive, I think what stood out to me was instead of more of like an individual player standpoint, I think the players were reacting to each other very well. And that's where, especially as I'm coming out and I'm watching this practice, I want to see what the cohesive unit looks like. I want to see what everyone is doing as a team. And because that's what you're watching. You're watching a cohesive unit, especially when it comes to defensive line and offensive line. As one of the biggest times that I was watching was inside run as well as some pass rush. And as they were running their games, it really looked like there was a true camaraderie coming from the defensive end as well as to the defensive tackle seg. So as we're transitioning some of these newer defensive tackles in and obviously potentially dealing with some on the portal, we're going to see a lot of that leadership needing to be able to bleed between the defensive tackle and the defensive end position. And if that does not happen, we are not going to see these sort of caliber play that we see, because some people don't realize that the defensive tackle position is extremely important for that defensive end. And the reason why is because if that defensive tackle on that side isn't very good, that defensive end is going to get a lot of double teams, right? They're going to get more double teams than they would if they were to be able to split it up, because both of them are very dominant, or if they're not able to run their games very well. And that's one thing that I saw in practice that I was like, listen, they got it dialed. And especially Odell's doing the most, right? He's always doing the most. He's always up here, and you have to be able to sift through a lot of that stuff. But it was cool because he was doing things in a way that I can tell are more constructive than him being extremely frustrated because things aren't happening the way that he wants them to. It's like, hey, how about we do this way? Instead of being like, all right, you're not understanding what's happening here. And that's what you want to see. So as a cohesive unit, I think we are in great shape, and I hope we continue to do that as we go into the end of the spring and going into summer, because we don't want to go directly. Obviously, we don't want to talk about going directly into the regular season, because summer is going to be huge for the development, especially when it comes to the games, because they run those a ton during summer.
Oh yeah, and we got some studs coming in. I think we've got about 10 guys yet to arrive on campus. Amari Williams, D.D. Holmes. You've got Jen's guy, Ricky Knight, who's going to like really make a run at that slot cornerback position this year.
I just love that kid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't keep going on about it. It's almost going to be a stalker situation if he hears me anymore. So I'm going to have to stop. I just think he's that good. I think he's so underrated. I think he's so good. That's where I go with it. So
okay. Well, we'll see how he plays.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see him get here and compete in fall camp. He's definitely a stud. But you said something interesting there. I'm glad you took it there with Odell Haggins. Pretty amazing, for you to come play 4 years, go to the NFL, all this stuff, and here we are like 10 years later, 2 coaching staffs removed. Odell was actually the interim head coach between the coaching staffs. So he's got, I think, 2 or 3 wins on his belt as a head coach, and he's still here. He's, you come back after all the years, and he's still coaching. And you touched on it a little bit, how himself, you being able to see his coaching style has kind of changed over the years from that more just cussing you out and giving you that hard love to really redirecting them, like kind of what we were just talking about. I can't remember who the tight end. I know we've had a couple different DNs coaches while you were there, but observing that relationship with them and Pat Pooch's coaching and practice. I guess, is there anything more you want to add? I know I kind of screwed up. There wasn't really a question there.
Yeah, no worries. Odell, his it's really cool because as you're growing as a defensive tackle, you realize that your coach is growing too. And what people don't think about is the fact that these coaches are always learning. Even someone like Odell Higgins, who's been there for so long, they're always learning. So as I was able to progress, I was lucky enough to be like on a lot of coaching tape for him. So he would go around and talk to these coaching clinics, and I would be on some of his tape just because my technique was always so good once I got to that level. And it was really cool to watch because we would come back and break down film, and Odell would be like, man, I like the way we put our hands inside like that, or I like the way that we potentially attack that double team. I think we're going to start doing that more. And so he would switch his game up like almost like mid-season and say, hey, let's start working on this, and things would start working. So like I was able to watch Odell mature his game and get better at his game, which some people don't realize that is happening all the time for these coaches, especially as offensive schemes change, or these offensive line, or these defensive gurus think of all these different things. These coaches have to be very malleable in order to switch and change how they're running their game and how they're attacking. So especially per game or per offensive line. So you have someone like Wake Forest, who their offensive line is very particular, and they kind of muddle
I can't stand that damn thing.
And as we played them all 4 years, we had a very similar game plan, but like we kind of switched it up a little bit. And some people kind of threw their 2 cents in, and he was willing to kind of take some things sometimes. And it was really cool to kind of watch Odell kind of progress in my 4 or 5 year tenure there.
Absolutely. Did you get to spend any time with Adam Fuller? If you got to talk to him, do you have like, what do you think of him? I think he's like, he's taken some kind of lumps in the media and from the fan base, but just an absolute beast. Continues to put out better and better defenses. Just curious what his kind of his style is versus maybe a Mark Stoops or Jeremy Pruitt that you got to play for.
Yeah, I think it is. So every coach has like their signature, right? And playing for Mark Stoops, it was you got to be a dog, right? You're running. We're going straight at it. We're not doing a lot of switching. We're not doing a ton of games. We're really going to do some sort of game inside, but like really just hard nose, get after it, sort of defense. And then you have Jeremy Pruitt, which Jeremy Pruitt wants to utilize every single one of his players at all times. So everyone is moving. We are constantly moving. It is a shift. It is it is a defensive end coming down. We're completely slanting every single guy. We have a defensive tackle running contain. We're doing a lot of things, which was a really cool defense. That was a fun defense to play for. But then it seems like we're obviously coming back with Fuller. We're coming back to more of that that style hard-nosed football, to where we're able to run a couple different packages, but we're really sticking to our bread and butter. So I think each defensive and offensive coordinator has their kind of guru sort of style with their defense. And it's interesting because if you watch closely, what you start at the beginning of the season, you typically will not end the season with that. And especially with Jeremy Pruitt, we switched that defense going from a regular style defense to gonna running more nickel. And then we would run regular and heavy sometimes when it came to run. But that defense shifted and changed, especially when it comes to personnel. So watching the defense and watching some of your personnel throughout the season is a really cool opportunity to see kind of where the defensive mind is headed. And if things worked, oh, whoa, they got rid of that. You see it a lot more in offense because you're like, well, they haven't run that play since the beginning of the season. But defense happens a ton in defense because the personnel cannot either do it, or they do it great, or there's a personnel switch, or the defensive coordinator is just thinking that it's not working at all. So it's awesome. But yeah, Coach Fuller is awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing kind of what he comes up with game plan wise with the players that he has, because you have to build it around your players. That's what a defense and offense is built around, is around your players. Hopefully you bring those players in that you want to build that defense or offense, but you got to work with what you got.
There's no doubt. These coaches, Pat Surtain, Randy Shannon, John Papuchis, Odell Haggins, across the board, they all have a type, and they're bringing them in. And year by year, they've been able to bring, kind of better talent, and they're getting it done with the development. So it is a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
Offline, we talked a little bit about hip drop tackles, kind of the difference in the game. I know when you were here, Jimbo Fisher, y'all had like wars on the goal line, fourth down drills, fourth quarter drills. Like y'all really went after less than say 1980 something, but y'all still had some really tough practices. How much has it changed? How hard is it for a defender? Do you kind of feel for those guys nowadays, and trying to get guys down? And was there anything you noticed at practice that was just like, wow? Or were you just kind of impressed with the new techniques they have with the thuds and without wrapping up and things like that?
Yeah, so practice is never going to be, even when I was there, practice is never really going to the ground unless it's like coaches just wants to get after it. Like you're going to go to the ground, but you're really not supposed to for the most part. So didn't get to see too much of that, but it's going to be a really tough season for all defenses all over the country, just because that is a fundamental way in order for a lot of players to tackle. And as you're coming over and you're wrapping and you're turning, you're getting taught that since Pop Warner, right? So it is who you are as a defensive player. So we're going to see a lot of struggle when it comes to that, especially obviously your secondary guys. You're going to see a huge struggle with that. On top of that, you're going to see a big struggle when it comes to these refs. These refs are going to have a issue calling these things, and we're going to see what gets called, what doesn't get called. But it sucks. Like I think I understand in terms of the injury side of things and trying to protect these players, but at the same time, it's really creating a lot of chaos in the game, and it's creating a lot of uncertainty in the game where you're not allowed or you're not able to show these refs early enough or long enough in order for them to be able to make the right calls when they need to be called. So I'm not looking forward to seeing it. It's going to suck for every team, and watching it's going to be very frustrating, especially as a defensive player. But it's kind of, you got to do what you have to do.
Yeah, luckily it's only passed in the NFL. I don't think they've passed it in college football yet. So fingers crossed that doesn't enter. Agreed. I get it. I hate the hip drop tackle, just kind of like how it ended up happening. But it's just a symptom of saying, oh, well, you can't hit him here, you can't hit him there, you can't hit him here. So what else are you going to do besides hug them and roll them over? If you've got a planted steel cleat in the ground, it's trouble. You can't have them hitting knees. So it's like, yeah, you can't take out everything. What I wish they would do is back off some of the targeting rules and maybe reconsider that stuff. And then, I think it would naturally take it out. But they're trying to move for safety. So what are you going to do? We won't spend all night talking about it. But it's just it's got to be hard for some of those players. I can imagine being like a safety or a linebacker and trying to react.
And those are the positions that's going to suck the most. And at some point, I feel like it's going to be inevitable and it's going to trickle down. But we'll see kind of how it goes this year, man. We'll see. But I'm interested to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely. Jen, don't let me hog all the questions. Is there anything?
Oh, no, you're not. I'm sorry. I was kind of responding to a little bit of a big dog who was asking about a certain little treats we're bringing to the spring game. So, okay. I got to respond.
Absolutely. We got to get our guy hooked up.
Yeah. So, I absolutely love everything you're saying. The practice, everything. What are your thoughts when you see them, like when you were in the practice, wide receivers, do you watch other groups, or do you just look at what you played? How does that work for you?
So I watch all positions just because I'm used to that, especially when it comes to like individual drills. We want to see what our teammates are looking like. So I watch pretty much all of the positions and seeing kind of who's flashing and everything. But as an entirety, it's a little bit easier just to see kind of what the 7-on-7 looks like, who's kind of flashing in terms of like who's actually making really good, cool plays, or who's following up on blocking and kind of doing all those things. So yeah, we do. I pay attention to pretty much all the positions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was there anything that stuck out to you about Mike Norvell's offense, seeing DJU, some of these younger quarterbacks going at it? I guess what kind of struck you looking at the offense out there?
So I was pretty impressed when it came to Brock. I thought first it sucks because I really like Brock, right? Like he got thrown into the fire and everyone that watched it hated it because it wasn't fair. It really wasn't fair for him to get thrown in like that. But I loved his confidence and I loved how he was willing to take it on the chin and say, hey, this is my team and I'm going to do whatever I can do in my capability to try to win. And that's the type of player you want on your team. That's the type of player you want, even if he's not a starter, that's the type of player that you want as a backup on your team, because those are the people that are able to help make the right vibes and the right momentum and the right feels for your players that are actually playing if he's not that one playing. So I love Brock. He definitely has a special place in everyone's heart, I feel like, just because of how he played out the rest of the regular season. And so I loved his maturity. I thought he was a little bit inconsistent just because obviously he's still growing and learning, but he had some great balls. Like he had some unbelievable balls. And I love that promise for him. But when I watched DJ, I thought that he had a really good touch on the ball. And I thought that he was delivering the ball on time and doing a lot of the things that Coach Norvell wanted to see out of him. It seemed like they had a good rapport with each other. He wasn't very vocal. And it seemed like he said something that he's going to more or less try to put his head down and really just try to earn his leadership and his role by just kind of doing that work and putting the work in, which I absolutely love. And I talked about that. And I stated that on my Instagram, Nolan with Nile. And that was something when I saw it, I was super happy because that is the way you win your team over. That is the way that you win the crowd and your coaching staff, is by not being a rah-rah and not backing it up, but by backing it up and then being a vocal leader when players are actually buying into what you're doing on a consistent basis. I will say this about someone, Jalen Ramsey, right? He's a big talker and he speaks a lot and he's kind of one of those, he's known and at this point in time in the NFL as being like a shit talker, right? But he is one of the hardest workers you will find. At Florida State, he worked his ass off. And he was 9 times out of 10, he was quiet. Like if there was an issue going on, he would speak on it. And he would never back down, but he was a workhorse and no one needed to say anything because everyone knew that Jalen was taking care of his because he was an extremely hard worker. And I say that because that's how he earned his leadership on that team. On top of being a really good player, he was a dog and he worked his behind off. So I hope DJ does that, and I hope that he gets the response that he needs and the response that we all want to see, because that is what's going to allow this team to progress as we're going into the regular season.
So what really happened? Who did Jalen knock out, and who was he cussing out to get kicked out of that practice before 2014 when everybody was kind of jogging around? And he, like I was saying, he didn't suffer fools. He wasn't going to let people get off easy. If you have anything on that practice, we'd love to hear that anecdote.
I'm not even sure. Listen, especially when it comes to, there's so many things, and Jimbo was very quiet, right? Jimbo was a very secretive coach. He didn't let the media in. Like he doesn't want anyone seeing anything. So trust me, I couldn't even pick the time that happened just because other than Jalen, it just happened. But those things are so important for the development of your team. Like you get into a fight, the coach is going to let some of it play because he knows that needed to happen. That was been brewing for the last 2 weeks, or that's been brewing since he got in on campus. Like that needed to happen. So these coaches love it and they like to see it because at the end of the day, we're all brothers, and you're able to see some of these players pick sides, or some of these players say, hey, I'm gonna go rep him, or I'm gonna go help him, or whatever the case may be. But then at the end of the day, they're able to come together. So some of those highs need to happen, and a ton of them happened when I was there. I'd have to really think about it and figure out like a couple of pinpoint times that are like really funny, especially with Kelvin Benjamin and and some of these other guys that it was cool, especially in a big time in the defensive ends and the defensive tackles. We would go at it with the offensive line, but at the end of the day, man, it makes your team better. It makes your team better.
I absolutely love it, man. We've got Nile for about an hour. We're here at 35 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and throw the phone line up there. If anybody has any questions, you can text them in, call in, all that good stuff, and we'll continue the conversation here for a little bit. I know Jen is a huge fan of that national championship team and that whole kind of era, so don't let me hold you back. If there's any questions you have for him for his time, speak now or forever hold you.
To be fair, I've been a fan since I was 3, and I watched that spear hit the field, and my parents had no idea what to do with me because they were Memphis boosters. We went to Destin all the time because we had a condo there, so we drove over to Tallahassee for spring games or for football games when I was like a tiny, tiny, tiny little girl, and I just enjoyed winning. And by the way, that's another thing. It's like, I just love the winning. Like, I love Memphis, but like, I like to win more than what they do. So
yeah,
that's how that happened. I enjoy it. The spear was on fire. The Indian, all the things. I loved every minute of it. Bobby Bowden was amazing. I just, oh yes, absolutely. So that whole year, like, there were so many NFL players everywhere. They were everywhere. You guys like were all over the field. Was there, like, did you guys have the tension? Like, you see, I'm not even trying to throw shade. I'm not even going to do it. I'm going to say documentaries about certain teams that had tensions, right? With all these players that were huge, that were going to the NFL or, whatever, just high school stars, right? You see all these documentaries. Did you guys have those problems, or was it pretty much kept as a brotherhood? Because you guys seem like a brotherhood pretty much.
Yeah,
era.
It was very much, there was some tensions there, but like for the most part, I would say 99.9%, it was just brotherhood. Like, it was everyone bought in to what was going on. Like, you had just this great coaching staff and you had just really good players. And especially someone like Jameis. Jameis obviously gets a ton of credit, but I feel like he still doesn't get enough just because he was someone that obviously was amazing, but he was almost like, I've never really thought about it like this, but he was almost like the comic relief, right? So you have, because obviously everyone knows that he's funny, but like, he never took things too seriously. And you kind of need that, especially when we were the type of team that we were, and we were getting the notoriety that we were getting, and we were in on ESPN all the time, and we were doing such big things. He was like he was the guy that was able to kind of like level things out and say, hey, let's go in here and do it, and be able to crack that joke or make Jimbo laugh or do something to where it's like, it's not that serious. And that was really cool. But I would say, as a team-oriented vibe for that national championship team, could not have been better. I think everyone worked well together. The offensive line loved each other. The defensive line loved each other. We all worked really well together. The secondaries were just glued together. And then you have these little pockets of like groups that were defensive line and wide receiver and maybe a DB and the punter and like all these like other weird cliques that were nothing near the same position, but we all got along, as well as we were really, really awesome with the walk-ons. The walk-ons might as well have been scholarship players. Like, we never saw them any different. We never treated them any different, as well as the training staff. Like, the training staff, they might as well, us might as well have just been like star football players, because none of them were any lower or higher than one another. And I love that about our team. I really, really did. That everyone was treated the same, even by the coaches. Everyone was treated exactly the same. And I think that had a big testament of like how we were able to be together through all like any like controversies that went down or like anything. Like we all stuck together. We all loved each other. We were all like, listen, it was us against the world. And I've said that a few times, but it's like, it was literally us against the world. And we bought into that. And I will say the only thing that was weird was that when Jimbo had that whole thing about like going to like Texas A&M, like, and that was, I want to say that was 2000. Was that 2015, 2014? Us going into like the playoff year, or was that
when he
Oh
left?
no, it
That
was
was 17.
2017.
No. When he had, so it was prior to him leaving. So there was like
Talking
a
about when
situation
LSU?
that happened.
Oh, the LSU years.
No, there was a scare. There was like a situation to where like he was.
Oh, he did
in
that
the middle
every
of, like,
year.
talks
He
with-
did that every year.
with Texas A&M, but there was one that was like really like serious, and everyone was like, all right, like what's going on here? And
yeah, he did that. He did that every year with LSU, pretty much. When LSU was looking for a new job, he did that every year. That was, yeah. I mean, look, nobody really believed it, and almost nobody really believed the A&M rumors, by the way, either. When they first came out, because Florida State fans are looking at it going, you don't go to A&M from Florida State, like that's absurd. But we just watched Calipari go from Kentucky to Arkansas. So these things happen. It happens. And it's the same. Like A&M is the Arkansas to Florida State, and whatever. Like we get it. Sorry, A&M fans, if you're actually on this live, yes, you are not a blue blood. And I don't know how many times I have to tell you this. It's going to continue to go on until I decide that I'm going to stop. Well, or you could win a championship in literally anything. Anyway, so I look at it, and with Jimbo, that was such a weird situation, and I get it. Like the players still love him, and he was a player's coach, really. I mean, well, I don't know.
he was for the most part, for sure.
Yeah. So I think Jimbo, and I think a lot of fans don't understand, like he went through some personal things. By the way, Jimbo, love you. Thank you for the championship. I've never gotten more hate on social media than I did that morning, because do you know that I had people texting my now ex-husband saying, Jennifer's being too mean to me on social media, so you need to tell her to stop after we beat Auburn. Like I was loving every minute of it. But my real question is, did you guys feel, and I'm going to get killed if I don't ask this question, and you don't have to answer it, but I'm going to get killed if I don't. Did you guys feel that Auburn stole signs?
So yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. we did. Yeah, as a collective, it seemed like that's kind of what was going on, and we made some adjustments, and it seems like that was potentially the case. Obviously, there's no real proof, but that's what we felt.
Yeah. Okay. I was just asking. I totally get that. I get this all the time from fans saying, like, can you ask these former players that play? Did they feel like they're stealing signs? So, because I think that's a huge deal for them. But yeah, I actually got in trouble for being mean to people on social media during the game, which, by the way, my phone wouldn't stop going off when it was 20-3. Would not stop. The moment it gets away from that and I start saying something, they start whining. I've never seen anything like it. Okay, cool.
What a great time to be alive during that.
Oh, it was amazing.
During that game. Honestly, a little bit give and take, because some people would have rather not at that point in time, because it was so stressful.
Oh no.
But it really came out to be an amazing opportunity. At the end of the day, man, it was a blissful moment for so many people.
Yeah.
It was a blissful moment, man.
Oh man, I mean, I showed my daughters like what it looks like to Deion high step when that moment hit, when Kelvin Benjamin caught that pass. Like, I don't even know, like, it was just crazy. And yes, the only other time I got in trouble for being mean, and it's always SEC fans, which is wild, that when Ole Miss and Florida State played, when Ole Miss was up on Florida State, my phone went off like crazy. At the end of that game, it was silent, and then I was told I was mean, which is, again, you're right, I am mean, but y'all started it. I don't talk shit during games. That's just a rule. So if you decided to do it, and then I come back at the end, that's not my fault.
That's a very good rule. Let's leave it to the end for sure.
Man, how fired up were you guys? How crazy was it when Kermit Whitfield takes that thing up the sideline for you guys to retake the lead? That's like, I was in my house. It was me and my sister and my best friend at the time. We're all standing there watching it. I had like a plate of chili dogs. Christmas tree was still up, stuff like that. And when that happened, it was like, bam! We all jumped up, like literally a chili dog flew up and stuck to the ceiling. 30 seconds later, he gets the touchdown. Hot dog hits the ground. It was crazy.
Holy smokes. Yeah, man. It was. So Jimbo called that take back. He called it in the locker room. He was like, Kermit, listen. He literally screamed over like everyone during like our individual meetings. He was talking to the offense. We were talking, and Jeremy was talking to the defense, and he screamed over and was like, So like he screamed over and talked to. So we were split up even further. So we were talking like wide receivers and quarterbacks and whatever. And he screamed over while we were talking. And he said, Kermit, you're about to break it. You better hit that gap. Like they see it upstairs. It's about to happen. Like you better hit it. And it happened. And it was a really crazy moment because when it happened, it was just like, holy smokes, he called it and it happened and it set us up for success, man. It was a game-changing moment.
I honestly, and then you had the Heisman moment after, oh my God, I can't remember his name right now. What's wrong with me?
Rashad? Wait,
no, the Auburn kid he did the Heisman pose, right? He did the Heisman pose when he did the touchdown.
Their running back?
Yeah.
Yes.
I forget his name as well.
Chris Davis. Chris Davis is the one that had that horrendous coverage on Kelvin Benjamin. Who was it?
I can't remember his name. I just remember his mom was in De La Soul or something.
Yeah. Anyway.
He was a big boy.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. It was so wild to me because it was almost a full circle because you watch these, just listen, James Wilder, that Clemson game, all of it just added up. Honestly, it started with the Pitt game, and I don't know like how but the fact that Jameis didn't even have a pass that hit the ground in that Pitt game in his first game. Crazy,
unbelievable. That game was insane too. That game was crazy. It was crazy. That was my first ever collegiate start, and it was slammed. It was. I think it was huge. It was
the rain. Like you guys, how long did you guys have to sit out? Like Trey Mason, yeah. So how long did you guys have to sit out? It was like 2 hours for a rain delay, wasn't it? And then he just came back and was like. And then he was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to still come back here and just throw these dimes. And y'all can just, like, oh crazy. My God. Like, it was so fun. That was such a fun year. I loved every minute of it. I probably made way too many voodoo dolls about it. I get it. And, it was such a fun year. And you guys were just amazing. Like, it was so fun.
Note
every bit of it.
Do not get on Jen's bad side. She'll make a voodoo doll of you.
Agreed. She slipped it in there, but agreed.
I mean,
we heard that.
I mean, Stanford, they beat the nerds that year, and they did us a favor. And I may or may not have had some nerdy voodoo dolls. I don't know. And now Stanford fans still hate me, and so I get it. I really do. It's because I didn't want you in my conference, so sorry. But that's a different story.
That makes sense.
Absolutely, man. Well, we've absolutely loved having you on here. We're getting kind of close to that hour that we talked about. We've kind of went through. Is there anything that we haven't got to? Is there anything you kind of wanted to talk about that we haven't made it to before we get you out of here? I know we want to get you to be able to plug your company and your YouTube channel at Nolan with Nile right here on YouTube. So make sure you get over there, give him a sub. He's got all kind of great clips on there, and anything you want to. I guess now's your time to kind of plug all that stuff.
Yeah, man. So yeah, just Nolan with Nile. Go and subscribe. It's been a really, really cool road. I've just started a little bit ago, but I've been loving really being able to talk about, one, kind of how we did things back in the day, but then two, just being able to compare them to what things are now and be able to talk about some of these players and what my perspective is on players like Patrick Payton and what Jared Verse looked like and some of these other defensive players. I know that's obviously my strong suit, and being able to watch these players and see what the potential is. And I look forward to coming up this season, being able to talk some more about like what games look like and what the defensive line look like and what some of these other players look like and what we could potentially see going forward. And then being able to also talk with some of my teammates on my channel. I'm really looking forward to, there's a few that I'm really excited about. But as we continue to push forward, I would love a subscribe on Nolan with Nile on YouTube, as well as a follow at Nolan with Nile on Instagram. And yeah, just follow this journey, man. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, so you're on Instagram. Awesome.
Yeah.
I will.
I put a ton of stuff on Instagram.
Oh, nice. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna go retweet that or send that out too as well. I didn't know you were on Instagram.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, both of those are super active. I put a ton of stuff on them, and I'm just going to be continue to do more and more and more. But yeah, man, I'm super happy to be able to get back to FSU in some capacity. And I've been talking about it since I left, but now I get to talk about it with cool people like you guys and some of my former teammates and stuff. So it'll be a fun road, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
So since, I got that, I guess that can be the final question before we get you out of here. When it comes to the defensive line, be it Patrick Payton, be it a guy they brought in like a Durajai who we're going to see slide inside, a Daryl Jackson who we're finally going to get to start for us after, not being eligible last year. What are your thoughts? Who sticks out to you? Is there somebody you kind of see in yourself on that defensive line, maybe like a Daniel Lyons ready to step up and get a starting spot this year? I guess take it from there.
Yeah, I would say Daniel Lyons for sure. I think he somewhat is similar in terms of my style of play in terms of but I will say, I spoke about this a little bit more a little bit ago, and about that impact player situation and players becoming more impact players than being real like playmakers. And where you have, so let's say you have a guy like that can read the offensive line and really make plays in the backfield, like every once in a while, like coming on third down, maybe once a game, can make a sack or something like that, which is great. We want that player. We want that player on the field as much as possible, which is awesome. But I think Patrick Payton can be a impact player, and we're going to really hopefully have him as an impact player, because Jared Verse was able to do a lot more than what people think while he was on that defensive line. He was able to really control his side of the line by taking away those extra players, those tight ends, and there's 11 on 11. Right? There's 11 on 11. And if a player can take on a second player, we will win the game. If a player demands a double team every player, we will win the game. The game's about numbers, right? The game's about numbers. So if we could get a Patrick Payton to get to that point, to get to that level, which I think he is there, but I think we are so far from his ceiling. If we could get him to that next level, we will see significant success, because that double team will not go on that defensive tackle. It'll go on that defensive end. Or if it does, it'll go on that defensive end and that defensive tackle. So now our linebacker will be able to run free. So those are the things, and it's all about it's a numbers game. And when you watch football, understand that it's a numbers game. And if we are overloaded on one side and that side does not have enough numbers on it, we will lose on that side. No matter how good your players are, 9 times out of 10, we will lose on that play. So just think about it that way, especially as you guys are, anyone watching, thinking about it as you're watching this season. Think about the actual numbers and who is taking on who. And if we're single blocking, we're not going to win. If every player can get single blocked and then these players can get blocked, we're not going to win. So who can can step up and be a Jared Verse and take on 2-3 players at a time, and they have to run a tight end and a defensive. They have to run a tight end, an offensive tackle, and bring over a chip blocker at the end of that. That is what creates havoc for offensive schemes. So looking forward to it, man.
Absolutely. Pat Payton, man. Let me give you a name from the past. You remember Lorenzo Featherston?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
my
he
goodness.
couldn't get medically cleared. He had issues, but I feel like Pat Payton could be a guy to really live and be the guy that we all thought that he could end up being. And I agree with you. I think it's been just one steady jump, and we could see one freaky pass rusher once he puts it all together. And double teams. Also, Daryl on the inside. I think Daryl can be a real, a nose tackle in a 3-4. I think you could see some of those 5-man sets out there. There's all kind of different ideas, like you said, to affect the numbers. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. But again, we really appreciate you coming on here. To spend a whole hour with us. It was absolutely awesome. Jen had to go take a little break, but she'll be right back, man. But again, thanks for joining us. If you have any closing comments or anything like that, the floor is yours. But again, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me, and I look forward to seeing some of you guys. I'm really in my comments. Ask me any questions, reach out, feel free. I'm an open book. I'm more than happy to talk football. That's really what I love, especially when it comes to Florida State. So any of you guys, please feel free to hit me up on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever the case may be. But I appreciate the time, man. And especially if you're out in Jacksonville, Florida, I own an exterior cleaning company. So if you want to follow us at NLS Cleaning, we're putting a ton of really cool content up. We're doing things a little bit different. We're putting up really cool content of us like washing buildings and washing houses and really doing some really cool visual stuff. So follow us on nlscleaning.net. And follow us on Insta at NLS Cleaning. And Nolan with Nile, man. I look forward to seeing you guys over there.
ASMR style people working, cleaning things, pressure. That's a great idea. Yeah. Film it all. You'd be surprised. Guys that clean hoofs out, farriers for cows. Yeah. It's like the biggest thing on YouTube. They have millions and millions of subscribers. Yeah. All they're doing is cleaning cow's feet. So
it's funny. Yeah, man. Nah, it's really cool. And one other thing, we actually got the opportunity to clean the Champions Hall where all the players live. We did a bunch of cool content on it. And if you want to check it out, we're going to be dropping it here sometime in the next few days prior to the spring game. If you want to check out how the wash went, being able to see kind of our guys go over to the facility, we got a full tour of everything. Follow at NLS Cleaning. It should be some really cool stuff for you guys to see, kind of an inside look on some of the stuff they have going on there.
Heck yeah, I love it. So spring game, be able to make it or not? I know you're super busy.
I'm hoping, but this time of year is so difficult for me. But I'm still fingers still crossed. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to make it out.
All right. Well, if you can, make sure to come see us. We'll be at the MFTK tailgate at Lot 5 under the oak tree. A ton of your former players from your championship class on back to P-Dub and those type of guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. So kids under 12 are free. They've got open bar, 3 different food providers, all you can eat. So a ton of fun. We hope to see you there. And again, thanks again for joining us, man. And again, check out his cleaning service. Make sure you get over to @Nolan with Nile right here on YouTube and Instagram. And then on X, you can find him. I believe it's Nile_Law99.
Yeah.
So, bam. We sure appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was so fun.
That was awesome.
Man, we'll see you next time.
All right, bye.
Man, that was awesome, man. I love Nile. He was so cool.
So fun. So fun.
Encyclopedia says NLS Cleaning could be like SB Mowing or Post 10. I'm not sure exactly who those two are, but I agree. There's so many awesome, whether it's people that mow grass or do pressure washing or pipe fitting or whatever the case may be. It's really interesting. If you can get in there and edit those videos right, I'll definitely support. And we hope nothing but the best for Nile and hope we can see him at the spring game. But man, brings back a lot of memories. That's sure a lot. Every time we get to talk, I think we're working on like 10 people from that national championship game that we've been able to have on here.
I know.
Again, guys, I refer you back to Friday's show. Or Sunday's show. we really went through like kind of all the different particular names that we think possibly could hit the portal. Again, if people are expecting a huge explosion today, I think the kind of deal is I think a lot of the guys are still in good graces. They're going to go out and compete in that spring game, see if maybe they can, have a chance to change their situation. I'm not saying we won't have guys hit possibly today in the next couple of days. We may, but it sure seems like they're slow playing it. Maybe we'll see kind of the majority of our guys end up hitting Sunday or Monday. So we're really interested to see, kind of how that plays up. But if you have any questions, again, we're going to go for a little bit. We're right here at the hour mark. But yeah, what's up, Jen? What's on your mind?
Oh, not much. I'm just like so excited. I can't believe that it's going to be like tomorrow. I'm going to wake up and I'll be in Tallahassee in a day. I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
It is going to be an absolute blast. Again, guys, the link
like
is
a mini
in the
vacay.
Absolutely. The link is in the description. So if you don't have your tickets for the tailgate, go ahead and get those now. It's going to be an absolute blast. Like I said, kids 12 and under free, all you can drink, all you can eat. They're going to have 3 different food servers. There's going to be dozens of former Noles, coaches stopping by, recruits, players, administrators, who knows? It's going to be a ton of fun. So definitely come check that out. And I can't wait for the spring game. The spring game is going to be, I believe, 4 p.m. Eastern. It's not actually a game. If you're going to want to watch it, I believe you have to have ACC Network or the ESPN Plus app, however that works, to watch it. Unfortunately, I think it should be on national TV, but, we're used to ESPN being, how they are. Regardless of whether it's a real game or a scrimmage or a showcase, however he does it, I guarantee you it would have rated. It would have done better than most of the shit they have on that network. But anyways, I'm sure most of you guys, you can get it.
Are you saying
or
that
if
it
you
would do
can't find
better
it-
than women's lacrosse? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably better than women's lacrosse. But if you can't find a link, just wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Just email me or text message me or something, and I'll figure out a way for you to watch it and get around that ESPN bullshit. But allegedly, yeah. But we love you guys.
Allegedly.
Not a ton of questions coming in. I think this, I guess, is a good place to cut it off. We really appreciate you guys. And the next time you see us, we're going to be live from Tallahassee. We haven't decided exactly who the guests are going to be, exactly how we're going to do it. So we're staying at a pretty cool place where all the players and everything stay. So we're gonna try to do something there. Maybe get a lounge room or something. Maybe have some friends stop by with. Maybe we can do something all on one set. Something different. It's gonna be something special. It's not gonna be the normal show. So just look forward to that, and we will see you then. I guess we can leave you guys with a little bit of Trub Life like usual, and go Noles, baby. Nope. Trub Life. Now.
Hey man, FSU versus everybody. Let go. First off, fuck Bama in the road tide. Fuck Tuscaloosa in every city that's close by. Bitch ass hillbilly redneck fans. Auburn almost caught y'all slacking like dress pants. Michigan trash, they ain't got a damn chance. Only Wolverine I respect is X-Man. Keen ass coach got exposed, still in plays. Damn right I'm bitter, y'all sweeter than lemonade. Take